Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Beyond the Frame panel. My name is Jackson McLennan, and I'm a cinematographer. And I'm excited today. We have three fabulous cinematographers who are joining me to discuss everything beyond the frame. We're joined by Petros Antoniadis, who is a fabulous cinematographer who just won the Emerging Cinematographer Award. We have Xavier Doleon, who's a fabulous cinematographer of the film Marinette, and Wes Cardino, who's a fabulous cinematographer of Florida Man. So thank you all for joining today.
Thank you for having us.
I wanted to get things kicked off with a question. As cinematographers, I think a lot of us are drawn to this sort of marriage between the tech and the art, or the tech and the creative. So I wanted to kind of ask, can you describe what that kind of means for you, this marriage between tech and art? Maybe we'll start with Petros.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having us here. It's wonderful to be connecting with everyone, and it's a pleasure. Now, regarding the tech and the art, right? Well, I feel that the easiest way to put it in perspective is that the art is the image you have in your head when you're visualizing the script, and the tech is the image you get in your monitor while you're shooting, right? So, and the marriage is, it's somewhere in between there. So the closer those two images are to each other, the better the marriage is, I think. But, it's a marriage that it's constantly being developed, because, your artistic aspects are growing, the technology is growing as well, so more tools are becoming available. And you have to constantly keep refining the picture in your mind, I think, as well as having the knowledge of how to turn that picture into the picture in your monitor in the most efficient way for production, and always by serving your director's vision.
Yeah, nice. What about Xavier?
Yeah, for me, this is a very interesting question, because I think this is really something that made me click with that job. Actually, I was a trainee on set. I was already fascinated by, for example, special effects, where you have this technical part at the service of the artistic. And in a way, I was on set as a trainee assistant director, and I was watching all the jobs, and I was like, oh, the DP, this is kind of the perfect balance for me, because this is technical a job at the service of an artistic point of view. And I think this is really the balance that I like to have in a job. And I think the job of the DP's job is the perfect place to be able to know and to use the technical tool at the service of the artistic point of view. And depending on what kind of DP you are, sometimes you are more technical than artistic, and then sometimes you are more artistical than technical. And also, depending on what kind of movie or project you are shooting, sometimes this balance is changing. But this is really the place where I like to be, and this is a really good balance for me.
Yeah, nice. And Wes?
To Petros's earlier comment, I would say I'm in a constant state of divorce then, because my relationship between what's in my mind and what you see on the monitor, there's always a big gap there. So you're for me, I'm always working as hard as I can to match those two up. It's an interesting process, but I think yeah, that is the relationship. I mean, like any artist, I think if you're a sculptor, and you need to know how to you need to have the technical skills to achieve the vision that you have in your head of what you think something should look like. And you don't always get there necessarily. I mean, there's this like platonic ideal of perfection, and then there's sort of reality. But that's part of the creative process, I think, right? Like that's the exciting sort of event that at least drives me and makes me feel creative, and it's a challenge. And yeah, it's just that's and telling that story, through, I mean, I guess, I like to tinker as well, so having that sort of infatuation with cameras and lights and all that kind of stuff. It's just fun.
Yeah, great. Well, Wes, actually in Florida, I wanted to talk off the back of what you're saying there about that, striving to get what you want in your head on the monitor. In a series like, what you did with Florida Man, how do you find that you go with not just getting what's in your head on the monitor, but doing it across multiple episodes, keeping consistency across those episodes, but then also keeping, each episode fresh enough that it's visually interesting?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think there's multiple answers to that. Especially in television. You're working with one director and you're prepping with one director for the whole show. It's very rare, but it does happen. I haven't had that experience. I'm sure the consistency for a TV show like that it's a lot easier. Because as directors come in for other episodes, they have their own version of what they think it should be and how it should look and what kind of lenses they want to use. And you sort of have to be a bit of a guide and say, hey, we don't use wide angle lenses on the show, or we don't use anything longer than a 65. Like, maybe there's a formula that you've set up with, earlier directors or whatever. So I think there's that, and you can use that as a guide to keep things consistent. I think on Florida Man was a bit interesting because there was always an intention of the show to sort of become more claustrophobic over time, and so sort of freed us up. There was another cinematographer, Adrian Cray, on that, but it sort of freed us up to explore different looks as it went through, at least in terms of lensing and camera placement. I think with Florida Man, the consistency of that show came more out of the lighting, and we wanted Florida to sort of look and feel a certain way, hot, a little bit colorful, more, the blacks were blacker, and so that was where I think we found our consistency for that show. But a specific type of consistency, and then the lensing was what allowed us to transform the show a little bit as the stakes got higher and higher, and things got more and more heated and dangerous and stuff like that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that really comes through actually, in watching it.
Well, I hope so.
Question for the group I wanted to throw out there is, what is one unexpected piece of gear that you can't go without on a shoot? I know for me, the trusty cine saddle, I don't know if that's unexpected, but especially if I'm operating something, the trusty cine saddle goes with me everywhere. But is there any particular piece of equipment or gear that the three of you just can't go anywhere without? Maybe we'll start with Xavier.
Well, I think maybe my light meter, the light meter is still something that I'm using. So because sometimes you move somewhere, you don't know about the monitors, you don't know about anything, and that's funny because some years ago, everybody were saying, light meter is not useful anymore. And right now we are still using light meter on an everyday basis. This is still something that I trust very much, especially when I'm shooting outside also, you are looking at the monitor, then the camera assistant monitor, then you have the sun, you have a light, you have something, and the only thing you can trust is the light meter. So I think this is probably my favorite tool. And the spectrometer also now because of LED. But if I have to choose one, this is my light meter.
Yeah, great. Petros?
Well, I think that although I share, the same concerns as Xavier, for especially when you're shooting outside, the sun and all that, I think that what I found using most in a set is my iPhone. Because that iPhone gives you information that it's so easily accessible. Like you can track the sun, you can track the clouds. I remember when we were shooting The Chosen, we had huge problems with the clouds coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out. although the weather didn't help us a lot there on the iPhone, but still you can kind of track a little bit. And of course, you have a viewfinder in your iPhone, so you can,
Yeah.
place the camera very quickly. So I think that the iPhone would be the one that I can't go without.
And you can also do a light meter, if you check a very basic
True,
app
true.
doing light meter, and you put the very famous light meter next to it, and this is like so close that you are like, oh wow, I can't believe that. So yeah, you're right. Probably iPhone is better.
Yeah, it's surprisingly accurate. I'm always surprised at how accurate the iPhone light meter is. What about you, Wes?
I think I just echo that, the light meter and the iPhone, also, I guess it's not a piece of equipment, but a DIT. I don't, if I'm shooting digitally, I just feel more comfortable when I have a DIT, someone there to keep an extra eye on things, and find, in digital, there's no sort of, in film, you could do your tests, and you knew where you wanted to expose, and on digital, all the different cameras, of course you're going to do testing, but it's not that, for some reason, for me, the way my brain works, it's not the same, and where you place your midpoint, there's so much variation now, and then it's going to go to the colorist, and and they're going to do whatever they are going to do with it when the producers go in and do their pass on the grade and stuff like that. So when you're on set and you're just trying to get the highest fidelity and highest integrity of the image, it's the light meter, the DIT, and then of course the convenience of the iPhone for framing, and like Petros said, following the sun, weather. I mean, North Carolina, Florida, man, there was like, rain, thunderstorms would just roll in within minutes. We had to keep track of all that, shut down set, stuff like that. So yeah.
Too bad the iPhone can't control the weather, but at least it can tell you the weather. Xavier, I wanted to talk about the Marinette, which is a soccer film, and involves lots of soccer match sequences. And you used an agito on the film. Can you talk a little bit about what it is and how you used it?
Yeah, the agito is this is a small rover, like a small electrical car with a stabilized head on top of it. You can put a shot overhead or Aris 360 head also. So this is basically a small electrical car, probably the size of a small table, with your camera and a remote head, and you can go very fast, up to 60 kilometers by hour, and you can follow people, you can follow animals, you can go very long lengths. So the director, Virginie Verrier, she wanted to, for all the soccer scenes, she wanted to be with actors behind, just in front, very close to actors, and not to shoot very long lengths as we are used to see soccer. We wanted to do something very different. We wanted to stick to the action, to be with the girls. And so we did many tests with different kind of tools, and we were lucky enough to have two agitos actually in France at that time, end of 2021. So this is a tool manufactured by Motion Impossible. They are from London, from UK. And so we had one in France, one company called Nova Grip. Nova Grip is working mostly with fashion shows, music concerts, So the tool was used this way to go behind the scene, just in front, to follow people, but nothing was done with the agito in France for narrative. So we did some tests on the soccer field, like one day full test, and we were so happy. We were able to be with the 100 millimeter and to run very quickly, to go backward, to run and to go from the face to the ball with a 100 millimeter, and to be on the soccer field. So very quickly, actually, we realized that soccer is going to be action movie, And in Marinette, we had those two parts. One was action on the soccer field, and the other one was more intimate, small spaces, houses, the life of Marinette when she was a little girl. And in parallel of that, we had all the soccer field sequences. So the agito was the perfect tool, actually. So small, so fast, so easy to use. And you use it as like a drone. So you have one people driving and watching, because this is kind of dangerous, and you have another one operating the remote head.
Oh, that's great. That's really cool. I didn't know about the Agido before now. So
yeah, this is a crazy tool, and you have a learning curve actually. You have to learn how to use it, and the girl also playing. Because with soccer, this is never, you do a rehearsal, and actually this is never the same. So 2 times, you know what I mean? And you have to change your mind, or you have to follow, and even the ball is not doing the same thing every time. So yeah, that was kind of a magic tool to use on the soccer field, because we needed to be very flexible.
Steadicam operators are breathing a sigh of relief that they don't have to sprint along with soccer players.
Yeah. Sorry?
May I ask? Yes. May I ask something about? You said that it allowed you to go from her a tight shot to her feet in the ball and all that.
Yeah.
Does it also give the ability to boom up and down, or the camera pretty much stays the height that you choose?
No, you have an option. You can have one option with the RE head very close, so very close to the ground, a short version, and you have another version with a kind of bazooka, column that you can put, and you have the ability to extend a little bit on that one during the shot. But this is not really, this is more extend to change a little bit the eye, but this is not booming up and down as we know it with a crane. You know what I mean? This is more, change a little bit your eye, because we want the eye lines to be more, frontal, or we want to be a bit below, but that was not a big change in eye. And actually, when you go very high, when you use the column, you are losing speed. You can't go very fast because the camera is high on the small rover. So that's better to stay low, and you can go faster.
I see.
You can see on the website actually of Motion Impossible, you can see all the options, and you can see some reel of the tool.
That's cool. Shifting pace a little bit, question here is, what can actors do to establish a relationship with the cinematographers and camera crews? Maybe we'll start with Wes.
That's a tough question. I think it's sort of the responsibility of the cinematographer to establish that relationship. The actors, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of eyeballs on the actor, and I think it's great when the cinematographer and the A camera operator can sort of introduce themselves, and usually I'd get an opportunity to meet them in prep. Sometimes you don't, I guess, but I've been lucky in that regard. But I do think, for the A camera operator to introduce themselves on day one, and and just be very nice, and say hi, and just let them know what your name is, and I think that's probably the way to go, and it gives them a sense of comfort. The actors are going to need the freedom to do what they sort of want to do, and you can't box them in with your lighting and your camera movement. You got to be flexible. And so, of course, I love it when actors know where their marks are and where their light is and which way to turn their head. And, and some actors are just so good at it, and they're naturals, right? It comes to them through their experience, or they're just aware of everything. But some actors are not, and you just need, I think it's the responsibility of the cinematographer and the camera crew to make them feel comfortable, and give them the space that they need to get the best performance. Because at the end of the day, nothing that I would do on set is going to be worth much of anything if the actors and if their performances suffer because of it, and the story suffers because of it. So that's my perspective.
All right, Petros, what do you think?
I completely agree with Wes. I mean, a film with good cinematography and bad performances is unwatchable. So it's the performances that drive the narrative. It's the viewers do not connect with a pretty shot. They connect with the emotions that the performance is bringing on the table. So it's our job to establish a good relationship and to maintain it throughout the shoot and actually support those performances. We're there to serve the story, we're there to serve the director, and we're there to make everything that we can to bring those performances as closer to the audience as possible. So I completely agree with Wes that it's our responsibility to make sure that this comes out and not to suffocate the performances because we are trying to achieve a nice shot. That's never going to work.
And Xavier?
Yeah, I do agree with both of you. And actually, I think there is one thing that I'm trying to do every time. This is a camera test, when, you do camera tests with actors, so like many weeks before the principal photography starts, you say to the line producer, look, or to the assistant director, I need 1 day of test with main actor, and you talk about that with the director, and then actually in the head of everybody, this is like, oh, we know that the 4th of September, we have this day, this is not like a very last minute testing. This is like a day of testing with makeup, wardrobe, hair, and my gaffer, my key grip. And we try to have a small kit, on I don't know, on the black background or something. We want to test also about lenses, but you realize at the end of the day, actually, that was more useful to get to know the actor and to see the faces, to see how people interact with each other. So if this actor is going to talk a lot or not, what kind of room he needs on the set. This is first indication of what is going on and what's going to happen on the set actually. Or is the actor or actress is nervous, about something, you can already talk with makeup artist. And then on the first day when you arrive actually on set, you are like, oh, we already know each other. And also this main actor or actress know my keys, my key grip, my gaffer, my first AC. So this is kind of a good thing to do to have a good a relationship, to start a good relationship. And then I think as a camera operator, you are the first one to see the performance. So this is something you have to be careful with actor, you have to take care of them as much as possible. When you see someone, with trouble on set, or we need, sometimes also they need some very, very, very quick feedback of what they are doing. So you are most of the time the first person to give the feedback just by a blink of an eye or just eye checking. That's very interesting relationship to have.
But this also, I think, an interesting point here that, indeed, when the take is done, some actors are looking for, a yes and no. How did it happen? How did it go? And you're the first person to be there if you're operating the camera. But and sometimes it's tricky because I personally try not to break the connection between the director and the actors. And sometimes it's natural that you're going to say, oh yeah, it was great, but I try to keep it to the minimum because it's so easy to not establish the right connection there.
You have to restrain yourself from doing that. Sometimes it depends on what kind of relationship the director allows you to have with the actor also.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Yeah, I think it's our job as cinematographers and our crews to keep actors at ease. They have a lot going on as well as So, Petros, I wanted to ask on a show like The Chosen, you have these mix of like epic scenes, kind of juxtaposed against these intimate character moments. How do you approach the framing and composition of those to suit each scenario?
Well, The Chosen is an epic story by itself, right? It's the story of Jesus, which is the biggest and most well-known story in the Western world, at least. And what the ingenious creator, showrunner, and director Dallas Jenkins has done is to bring this story into a very realistic and humane setting. When the show was starting, him alongside my dear friend and amazing cinematographer Akis Kostadakopoulos, they made a series of important creative decisions that defined that the show is given in a very humane and realistic way. For example, the majority of the show is handheld. They did that in order to define that, it has a documentary vibe to it, in order to feel a little bit more realistic, to feel raw, to feel, way closer to the characters. And this is very important if you think about it, because through the centuries, we're used to think about the characters depicted in the show as saints, as gods, as people that, they're far away from us. And we tend to forget that there were people too, with struggles, with passions, with angers, with, all the struggles that we have as people, and then they became saints. So it's important to show that they are raw characters, they are everyday people, and by doing so with our camera, we try to help establish this relationship, to make it feel more raw, more realistic, more like they're there in the room. Now, of course, there are some big scenes that you need to show the magnitude and the scale of the message. So for this, of course, you're going to go epic, right? You're going to go with cranes and dollies and, expand your frame and show the scale that the message had. But, these scenes are aiming more to showcase exactly that, the impacts and the scale. But for the majority, I think it is intimate. I will never forget, we were shooting this amazing scene in the Sermon of the Mount, where the Jesus, is talking in front of, thousands and thousands of people. And of course, there were cranes and all that, but for the close-ups, we did extensive use of Steadicam because it was very uneven, the ground. So we needed to be calm, not handheld, because it was important to show the calmness of those words, how they've been spreading to thousands of people. And a huge shout out to Daniel Fritz, who is an amazing Steadicam operator, because we had such a short window to do it, with the clouds rolling in and out, the rain and all that. He was in the top of the game all the time, pushing in the right moments, circling based on the performance, the amazing performance of Jonathan Rumi. And I was watching the monitor and I was watching a movie. I mean, it was great. It was a fantastic collaboration of the performance and the camera move. And there are of course other scenes that are way more character driven, more intimate, and all that. For those we try to use a bit tighter lenses, a bit shallower depth of field, being a little bit closer to the face, and feel the characters. But I think that no matter if it's a huge scene or if it's a small intimate moment, we're aiming to use our framing and camera work in a way that makes us feel that we're there present with these people, in order to establish the connection that we need between the viewers and these characters.
Yeah, great. I think it's for all of us. I'm not sure whether I think it's that moment where you're watching the monitor and it feels like you're watching a movie, that you kind of go, oh yeah, this is I think that's a great thing that you sort of say there. Question here: what tricks and techniques for everyone? Tricks and techniques you have learned in your time on set that perhaps you didn't learn or wouldn't learn in film school or in a book. I think for me personally, it goes back to what you were saying, Xavier, with the prep. It's that listening and kind of taking note of things like how are the actors behaving and things like that will establish, the way the set might work, and that kind of those soft skills that might kind of, you might adapt the way you work or what you do based on that. What do you guys think might be a trick or technique that you've learned in your time on set that you didn't learn in a film school or a book? Maybe start with Wes.
So many, right? I think I started on, when I started shooting, I started, when I went to film school, it was, we were shooting film, and digital had just sort of started to happen. So I didn't actually shoot my first digital movie until maybe like the mid 2000s, 2010, 2011, something like that. And I think, since digital has taken over, that a lot of people spend a lot of time in the DIT tent, or just at the monitors, and they never go to set anymore in between takes, you know. And I guess for me, just a trick is that I like to get up after every take. If they're not going to go right away, I like to get up and I like to walk to set. I like to talk to the operator. I'd like to see like what's happening in real time, be present. Because if something also needs to change, you know, you're there to make it change, and you're not behind the 8 ball reacting to things that you know, that you're just watching the monitor, and maybe you're seeing something on the monitor and you're like, why is the operator doing that? And you have no connection to what's happening out on the set. And so for me, I guess that's just like a tip. It's not really a trick. It's just a thing that I was like, hey, I need to get up and go to set. And I just learned that from being shooting film, because on film, you're not married to the monitor. You know, you can stand next to the operator if you want, because you can't really see anything anyway on
Yeah.
those, you know, 8-inch CRTs. But no, but you know, and then you can be there and you can see it all, and you can see, is the lighting working, you know, do we need to, you know, you don't, you know, just anything, any kind of little thing you might need to change. So for me, that you know, just getting up and being on set more, I don't really teach you that, I don't think. You know, they're just sort of like, go out and light, and then go back to your monitor and make sure it looks good. You're like, I can't do that. You know, I need to be there. That's part of my process.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Xavier?
There is something that you don't learn at school. I think this is management, to manage people, to manage a crew, to take care of people, and to take care of the good health of people. For example, what kind of equipment I'm going to use at the end of the day. Do I need this? Do I need to take care of my crew because this is going to be a hard day tomorrow? So I'm going to use a smaller piece of equipment for the last scene, and then tomorrow will be the big day. And also when you shoot for long weeks, the way you manage people and the shooting time and the way to talk to people when something hard is happening, you know. So this is not something you are learning at school, and some people are good at that, I mean, at management, and some need to learn. I think probably everybody needs to learn a little bit about management, and it's also depend on what kind of people you are yourself, you know, if you like to talk or if you don't like to talk to people. But when you are working with big crew, I think management is something very hard, and this is definitely something that we are not learning at school, and we should. I mean, if someone from a film school is listening to us, they should try to implement a program about management, you know, at least a few hours.
Yeah.
I don't know, something, just the basics to be a good manager.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that you have such responsibility as that director of photography, the cinematographer, and yeah, you're right. It's not something that's really taught at film school. What about you, Petros?
Yeah, I mean, I echo both, and I think that, you know, what is not taught. I mean, I didn't really attend you know, film school per se, but I think that it's something that I learned through the path is you know, the relationships. How do you deal, you know, with the director? It's different director. How do you deal with the actors? It's different actor. How do you deal with your crew? I think that the human relationship is something that is ultra important, and maybe also managing yourself, because sometimes, you know, you may really want to get that specific shot, but this may add, you know, overtime, because, you know, it's going to require this and that or extra equipment and all that. And at the end of the day, how important is that one shot that you really want in, you know, to the rest of the people around you? So I think that it's important to manage yourself as well, and to establish good relationships with the people around you, from the producers that you're going to be asking for things and they're thinking you're burning money by the time that you open your mouth, all the way to making sure that, you know, the actors are, you know, they feel very taken care of, and they can actually give the maximum to their performances.
Yeah, great. I want to move to lighting. Obviously, as we all know, lighting is crucial to creating ambience and mood and tone, etc. For the group, just a general discussion how lighting choices and different techniques set tone for different scenes? Maybe Xavier, we'll start with you.
Oh, sorry, what do you mean? I didn't get the question.
So just how you feel that a different lighting choice or a technique might help to set the tone for a scene, or if there's any particular lighting choices or techniques that you maybe like to go to, or that you are a fan of, to create a certain ambience or mode or mood or anything, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I like to use different tools. You know what I mean? I don't like to stick to one tool. And when we were talking about, you have an image on monitor and you have an image in your mind and you want to match that. So we were talking about that. And I think this is a very difficult process. And there is something that I'm doing all the time when I'm arriving in a room. This is a white, most of the time this is a white room. And I mean, or at least you have the roof is white. You know what I mean? The ceiling is white. And actually, this is a big white surface that I don't want first when I'm thinking about lighting. You know what I mean? This is like you put a 20 by above you. You know what I mean? And this is not my choice. I start with black. So my grip, they know, and my electric crew, they all know that every time we arrive somewhere, they put some black. Sometimes I'm saying, oh no, I want it white. So this is a choice. You know what I mean? This is kind of a philosophy. I don't like to have a white something on top of my head. But I want to decide if I'm going to use it or not. So this is really something to set the tone of the room in terms of contrast and everything that I'm doing every time. Yeah, this is probably a regular trait.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. What about you, Wes?
I mean, I just have a lot. I'm not married to any one particular method. I guess maybe when I just sort of generally think about, what do I want to do? Maybe the biggest source I can get as far away as possible. That's like sometimes when I'm thinking, about how am I going to light a scene, like that's where my mind goes, because it's just going to give you the best looking light. I think, if you want sharp shadows, it'll give you that. If you want to break the light up, you got plenty of room to break the light up. You don't have to worry about an actor walking 1 foot and suddenly they exposure changes, a whole stop, and because the light's 2 feet away. So I mean that's not always possible, but that inverse square law can always come to bite you. When you're on smaller budget and you can't afford those big lights and you're just, I wish I had a big light and I could put it far, far away. And so I think that's like maybe a go-to thing. I think about negative fill. I think that's like controlling your negative fill is something that's a go-to. I guess that's like a thing that I go to all the time, especially for like day exteriors, where controlling the light can get a little more unruly. Sometimes just flying in like an 8x solid or even a 4x solid just to give some shape to a close-up or something like that. Like that's a really quick, easy way to create some shape and some mood, because sometimes you don't want it to just be full. You want to see some contour there. You want to create some mood, even if it's a day exterior. So
yeah,
I'd say those are maybe the two things. But same as Xavier, I think there's just a lot of approaches, a lot of tools. There's so many lights out there now, especially with LEDs. Like it's also just fun to like mess around with the lights. You test them out and prep, and then you're like, you think you kind of know how they work, and you're like, well, let's test that light out on this scene. Yeah. So,
is there any particular light that you think is or newish light that you're excited about, particularly excited about?
Well, I really like Astera tubes. I just think they're so functional, and you can do so much with them. So I really like Asteras. That definitely on the last few projects. That's a a unit that I like go to all the time, because you can use those if you want to light stuff, if you want to light faces, or you want to light a scene with them, you can do it, especially with these cameras. They're so sensitive. You know, the Venice 2, I mean, it's so sensitive. So you can light a scene with the stereotubes, but also they're great when you need to create a practical fixture in camera that, you know, if you're doing, you know, you can put them in there. You can put them in a housing that your production designer or your art director's built. It's so, for me, that I like that, because I like to put stuff in the scene. Like, I'm always asking, like, where can we put practical lights? You know, where can we put more lights, more, you know, more practicals, and if the scene calls for it. But, you know, especially, you know, it's so I'm always thinking about that. And so I like the Asteris for that. And they're all, you know, wireless, and it's just great. And you can just yell at your board operator through your through your walkie, change that light in the corner. And then your gaffer's like, just relax. It's 323, come up 2 points, you know. So it's great. I love them. I think they're awesome units.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I like Asteris too.
Yeah, I mean, because they have the bulbs now as well. You know, the standard screw-in bulbs as well. So it's like, you know, it's yeah.
Petros, any particular tips, tricks, or go-to lighting ideas, or even just philosophy on how you approach lighting?
Well, again, I couldn't agree more with both of you. However, I try, although, you know, sometimes not very successfully, to think as a blank canvas and not oppose any predetermined ideas of what that shot would be until, you know, we block and we see, and you know, and then call for what's the purpose of the scene. However, you know, I'm a big negative guy. I think that, you know, negative fill is one of the most important things that you can do. I mean, if I had to choose between having lights or having grip equipment, I mean, it's hands down grip equipment. I mean, it's better to shape what you have, because you're always going to have available light. But you're never going to be able to shape it if you don't have, you know, a couple of things to do so. So I am, you know, I love, you know, big sources far away and all that, because it gives consistency to the light. But you know, I try at least to do my very best, and, you know, talk to the director, see what they want from the scene to come out. Because although I'm a huge fan of naturalism and low key, that doesn't mean that it's exactly what each scene requires. So although all of us have their own personal tastes, I try to first listen to what needs to be done, and then see how I can figure out a way to put my personal touches in that. I try not to be, you know, connected to any piece of gear or equipment, and just try to figure out what is needed for the scene or for the series.
Nice. Well, we're almost coming up to time, so I wanted to end with, if there's a question for all of you, is there any upcoming project or something that you can maybe share with the people watching and listening today?
It's so far out, but next year, I worked on a limited series, Walking Dead, for AMC, and it's the sort of, I guess, the story of Rick and Michonne after Walking Dead. So we'll get to see that next year. I wish I could say more about it, but that's, you know, that teaser premiered at, I think, Comic-Con. So in 7 months you'll get to watch it.
The shooting was in France, no? Correct?
Well, they're doing the Daryl Dixon in France, which I didn't work on that one. Okay. But yeah, they did do a series there.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, oh, I should have gotten on that one. But yeah, no, they've got a couple, you know, they've got a couple going, and Daryl Dixon was in France, and then the Rick and Michonne story was here in back in the States.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll get a bit more, a bit closer to the time. We'll get a bit more info about how that all went down from.
Yeah, no. I'm excited for people to see it. I think it's going to be a great finish up for the story.
Great. Yeah, that
I'm
sounds exciting.
actually equally excited to share that there is another project that is going to be coming hopefully by the end of the year, maybe beginning of the next year, a film that we wrapped a couple of months ago in rural India, which was
Oh, wow.
quite a place to be for an extensive amount of time, and working with Indian crew. I mean, besides my gaffer, everybody was local. And it was such an exciting project, such a fantastic experience, and especially working with a female director, first-time director. She's Indian, but she was, she grew up in the States, and she was a powerhouse that drove a great story into a film that I'm very, very excited to hopefully have it available soon. I cannot say much more than that, but looking forward to seeing it as well.
Awesome. It sounds great. Okay.
And yeah, I
Oh,
shot.
no.
Yeah, just I have one. Yeah, sorry, I have one project coming. I shot 2 episodes of the show Mrs. Davis on Peacock.
Yep.
Non-fighting and artificial intelligence. I shot 2 episodes of that, and I have a show. I'm just in prep right now of a show called Rivage. This is a new French series about a sea monster between UK and France attacking some boats and everything. So this is this is
amazing.
Nice. 6 episodes in shooting in the sea. Between October and December in Normandy. It's going to be
Wow.
nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice. That sounds great. Well, excited to see all of those projects. They all sound amazing. Thank you, all 3 of you, for your time today and for sharing on this Behind the Frame panel. Thanks to Impact 24 PR for putting the panel together, and thanks to everybody watching and listening today. And be sure to check out Montourage and Real Deal Happy Hour for more events like these and networking opportunities. So see you all next time.